when I was 16 years old. First time ever riding a flat bottom. First time definitely driving one. I'm Jordan Endler. I'm from St. Ed, California. It scared me, but eventually I did get to the point where I could get in the boat and I could drive it hard. I could hold it wide open.
I started taking him when he was only about 6, 7 years old.
Yep.
And we started going every year to the finals in Arizona. You know,
Firebird.
Yeah, Firebird. And so once he saw it, everyone kept seeing it. First he was afraid of it, like anyone else that age, you know, little guy. But just kept going. He fell in love with it. You know?
I found out drag boat racing from my dad before even we went to Firebird. Was from a VHS tape called Bad Boats that my dad had bought the VHS tape from.
Oh, the VHS tape, right.
From Puddingstone when they had the drag boat racing there. And that's where my dad found out about Firebird Raceway. And then he took me when I was 7 years old. So the 1997 World Finals he took me to. And after that I was pretty well hooked. Until we went to Lake San Antonio and I met a guy named Dennis Porter who's not with us anymore. He had the old I can't remember the boat name now off the top of my head, but he let me...
Porter.
Yeah, Floorboarder Porter. He let me drive his boat. It was a flat bottom, a Hondo runner bottom with a blown big block in it. I drove it when I was 16 years old. First time ever riding a flat bottom. First time definitely driving one. And I was absolutely hooked after that whole scene happened. He drove it first and the passenger seat sat backwards. So I'm like, got my feet in these foot holders. I'm looking out the back of the boat and I'm with this old man. I don't know what this guy, you know, how good of a driver he is, let alone. He was a pretty wild guy. And, you know, he goes, hey, I'm gonna let you drive the boat, but I'm gonna drive first, show you how to run the down pedal. I'm like, okay. So I get inside this thing and we're cruising. I'm looking out the back of the boat, already kind of nervous. And then he stood on it and I was like, you know, tensed up. I was like, man, we're going pretty fast and I'm going backwards, man. And so after that, he let me drive it and I definitely was pretty timid at first. I didn't just get in there and hammer it, absolutely not. I drove it around a little bit and I goosed it like one time and it came up in the air and kind of scared me a little bit, and that was it for me. But he was a good guy. He let me drive that boat and I'll never forget it, and I'll never forget him. And I wish he was still here, but that's okay. You know, things happen, but he was a good man, and that solidified it right there. I was 16 when that happened. And then when I graduated high school, my dad bought me my first flat bottom, which was like this old piece of junk. It was called a Haskell, and it was ugly. It looked like somebody had an LSD trip when they painted it, because it was yellow and brown. It was funky looking. And you know, when I was 19 years old though, I was like, man, this is the coolest thing ever. And we got that thing running. It had an old 496 Chevy in it, nothing special, just a tonneau ram deal, kind of like what's in this boat now, just not as radical. And I drove that thing for the first time at Lake Achuma, which is a local lake where we live in St. Ed, and it scared the poop out of me. And I put that thing together in our garage and I didn't know anything. That was definitely before the days of going on YouTube, going on social media, finding out, talking to people. We just winged it. I just looked at other people's boats and just like, okay, that's how they did it, so that's how I'm gonna do it. And it was a really kind of an eye-opener, but it scared me, but eventually I did get to the point where I could get in the boat and I could drive it hard. I could hold it wide open. I think it only did about 80 miles an hour. Of course, we thought it went like 120 because, you know, you're out in the air and whatnot, just like every other, you know, jet boat that's on the the lake. But we had a lot of fun, and it was a good boat to learn with, and we sold it and then bought this boat here that we have now, which is a 78 Cole TR2. I bought it actually from my neighbor who just lived a neighborhood over from me, and he had it for like 20 years, and it just sat in this barn with no motor in it, no rigging. It had a V-drive. It was laying on the ground, and we ended up, me and my dad, putting it together and getting it together, and we used the motor out of our first boat, put it in this boat, and then I just kind of drove around the lake for a long time. And finally
a few years.
Finally, we said that we're going to race the boat. We wanted to be competitive, we wanted to compete, and we just wanted to get out on that rope and say we did it. We got up there, I held on to the rope, I let the rope go, and I made a full pull or a quarter-mile run. That's all we really wanted to do. And I didn't even do it with this boat, actually, my first time on the rope. I did it with a ski flat that we have. It's a Howard, and it had the old motor out of this boat in it. And that was actually the first boat I made a pass on. And after that, then it was like the needle was in the vein. I had to do it more. And then when we got this new motor for this boat finished, it was full bore, we're doing it, we're going racing. This is our first full season with this boat and also me racing full time. Last event, we went out in the quarter semis in Super Eliminator again, but we made it all the way to the finals and won the finals in Pro Comp Flat, which was huge for us. That wasn't my first win. I won in 2020, one race with the Howard in the 11-second bracket, but to win in the Pro Comp Flat class with 19 boats, 5 rounds, and those guys are the big dogs, and we're not the big dogs. We are the little guys, and to beat all those guys was huge for us, and we're hoping to do it again. So the motor is it's a Chevrolet 540 cubic inch. It's a dart block with AFR aluminum heads on it. We had the motor built by RPM Engine and Machine up in Renault Park, or Roner Park, however you say it. They took care of all the motor work. We supplied some of the parts for it that I had left over from another motor. So like those carburetors on there are like 40 years old, but they still are getting it done. The boat, I did move some rigging around. It had a passenger seat in it for a long time. Took that out, built a mount for that gas tank, made a new strut brace. I've changed a couple of different props on it.
We built the whole transom that thing, man.
Yeah, the Wilson's, it's an Edelbrock intake tunnel ram that Wilson manifolds ported, polished, made the whole upper plenum on it. So that was pretty cool for those guys to do that. And they made it specially for this motor, for this RPM that we wanted, that we turn it. It made 960 horsepower on the dyno. I think it was 800 foot-pounds of torque at 7,300 RPM. So it's a pretty stout piece. It's totally NA, no power adders, no nitrous. We had some problems with it when we first started, but we've gotten it ironed out, and now we're good to go. And we've proven that it can get it done, it can win. So we're happy about that. So 461, I originally chose it because the boat is painted after one of the old spooky boats from the late 70s that Jerry Hanks drove. The colors are a little different than the original one from the brochure. The original one didn't have purple or reds in it. It was mostly blue and white, but the stripes and the layout is the same as Jerry the Hammer Hanks drove the Spooky, and it was 460. If I remember right, there was a 461 Spooky as well from, I think, the early 70s that I think his name was Nick, I can't say his last name right, Sketfu, or I can't, you have to forgive me on the last name, but he had 461. Unfortunately, he lost his life here at Lake Ming driving that boat. I could be wrong on that history, but I'm almost sure the boat was 461. It was a Spooky, so I didn't want to, it's not a real spooky boat, a blown fuel flat like from the 70s and real early 80s, so that's why I used the 461. I wasn't trying to take away that legacy that they had. Yeah, hell yeah, it's got a story behind it.
Yeah. I
could be wrong with the names and all that, but yeah, the boat is painted after the blown fuel flat Spooky that ran in like 79, I think, to 81 that Jerry Hanks drove. We want to win a championship. We want to win a championship in either Pro Comp Flat or Super Eliminator. We're tied number 2 right now in points with Pro Comp Flat. We would love to win the championship in Pro Comp Flat, but we would also love to win the championship in Super Eliminator. But I think Pro Comp Flat would mean even more to us because it's such a big class and it's all flat bottoms. There's no jet boats, there's no hydros.
Right.
So that's why we would like to win that class. And it being that we're kind of the new guys, and we don't have a big operation. As you can see, we just have a dually with a camper shell and an old toolbox. So we really don't have a lot here. So if we win a championship in Pro Con Flat, that would be like ecstatic.
That'd be the greatest.
Oh yeah, that's goal for sure.
That'd be awesome.
Are you gonna jump in the lake then?
If we win the championship,
You throw them in.
if we win the championship, I'm going to the lake for absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. RPM Engine and Machine for building that motor for us. Those guys were great. D21, we got all the rigging from him, or a lot of the prop shaft seal, cat plate seal, the turnbuckles, that's all from D21.
Well, Joe helped you out a lot.
Joe Shelfo helped me out a lot. He sold me V-Drive parts because we blew up the V-Drive last year.
Yeah.
Joe's the man. Joe helped us out tremendously, so we gotta thank Joe for sure. O'Reilly's for warranting out our spark plugs every time. I just like to thank my dad, you know, my mom, and my adopted grandpa Mike over there, my girlfriend Amy, and Steve, Big Steve. My friend Greg, who's not here because he's a bitch, and and Colton, because he's a bitch too. No, those guys are great, but I like to thank Colton and Greg as well. They're good guys. They're not here with us, but without all those guys, we couldn't do it. So I just got to thank everybody that's helped us, and a lot of people have helped us, and we thank them all. When we come here to race with the NJBA, we feel like it's family. Everybody here is very
so good, so nice. Everybody's just cool.
Everybody takes care of us, like people like Joe, his wife Gina, all of them. The other Joe Peck that runs the gate, you know, everybody that has to do with this association has been open arms to us. And when we go home, whether we have a problem or not, we always have fun. We always like, you know what, that was a good time because we got to see all these people that we've now gotten to meet over the course of the 3 years, and then probably the 10 years that we river raced this boat, you know, and we still see guys that we used to see on the lake or the river that are now racing, so it's all fun. We feel really good when we go home. Whether we break or not, we're happy. We had a good time. I think just take the chance. Just try it once. You know, we were scared to do it, and you know, we just said, hey, we gotta try it at least one time. And you know, I know a lot of guys that are new and run the river scene or the lake scene. They worry about their boat passing tech. It's not that hard. Everybody here is very, you know, they'll work with you. Like people like Joe and Dennis will work with you on tech. I think it's really cool to come out here and actually see how fast your boat went, and that way you have kind of that bragging right when you go back to the river or the lake. You can say, hey, I have a time slip. I was on the rope with NJBA and I had a great time, and my boat, you know, went, you know, whether it went, you know, 60 miles an hour, you know, 150 miles an hour, hey, at least you got out there and you tried and you gave it a shot, whether you like it or not, as long as you tried. That's all I could say. And don't be worried about passing tech or whether my boat looks good or not. It doesn't matter. Some of these, you know, some boats look great, some boats don't. It doesn't matter what it looks like, as long as you're out here doing it and having fun. That's all that matters.
For me, it's like a second life. I mean, it's like we reached this pinnacle, and now we're doing this. We did quads, we did pismoid, all this other stuff.
Yeah, I broke my back on a three-wheeler.
My wife, coming out here is just fantastic. We love it. We love being here with people. Like I say, it's kind of like a dream come true to get him in a boat and race. Because I don't have enough balls to do it. He does. That's the truth.
Hey, those things got nibbled off years ago.
Sure.
Hey, those things got nibbled off years ago. No, anybody that wants to do it, they just need to try. They need to, don't make up excuses, because I made up excuses for 10 years.
Yeah, we should have got out here sooner.
I should have been out here when I was like 20 years old when I finished that first boat.
Yep.
Instead, I came out here when I was 29 or 30 with my second boat. So we should already had 10 years. Oh God, we've been to tons of races. We've been to Red Bluff, Firebird, here, Pudding Stone. Well, not Pudding, Castaic. We've been to them all, but anybody that wants to try, they should at least try one time. Don't make up excuses. Don't tell you, oh, my boat's not gonna pass tech. Just do it. It will.
Yeah! Kick it!